Welcome to the True Demon Lord Show. I am the True Demon Lord, Franco, and today we're going to be starting a new series. This is where we're going to be focusing on showing you actual tips, tricks, and tactics with actual examples using TTS. Just different ways to get the best out of certain units that we have in certain areas of the game. Today we're focusing on Bloodcrushers and more specifically Bloodcrushers in the charge phase and moving into the fight phase, but it's all about the charge phase really. Just how to get the most out of their impact hits and different scenarios where you can, like I said, get the most out of them. Being able to take out multiple units, whether it's one with the chart with the impact hits, and then in the combat phase, how to use that to kill a key unit as well as deny primary to be able to crack open dedicated transports, etc., etc. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So let's take a look at the first example here. So what we're going to show you is we've got a nice unit of 6 blood crushers and a skull master, just, because you're going to see them a lot. It helps with the demonstration here. And what we want to do is, look, you've got a classifier on 5 wounds. We managed to ship it down 5 wounds from shooting, say from a lot of change or other great demon shooting or whatever. Just for the example, we've chipped it down to 5 wounds. We've also got a unit of 10 battle sisters here. So what we want to do is get the most out of this charge. We want to take off one of your opponent's biggest damage dealing units and one of the biggest assets. And the other thing we want to do here is we want to, again, not just get rid of a unit that has some good OC on it, but also deny your opponent some primary. So we've got a nice, let's just say 6 inch charge. We make the charge, we roll a 7, we get +1 because of our instrument, we get a nice 8. So what we want to do is we want to set the first blood crusher and we want to um, use him to kind of block out base for the rest of them because you don't want more than one guy here. And the reason for that is we're going to be using our impact hits from our ability. So you roll a dice against for every blood crushing unit against one unit you made a charge against. Every 4+ will do D3 mortal wounds. So the idea here is we're just getting one guy in base contact here with the Castigator. The rest of them are then going to make their charges into the Battle Sisters. Oh, we're going to send him flying. And so what we're going to do is that. And then we're going to do this. And this is going to be just roughly, just so you get the idea. Um, and then we're going to just do that. And we're going to move up here, move up here, and move up here. So why did we make the double charge? So, like we said, the Blood Crushers ability, you pick a unit, you charge with the Blood Crushers, and roll a dice for every model in the Blood Crusher unit. On a 4+, you do D3 mortal wounds to that enemy unit. Now, it doesn't matter where your Crusher models are, it just matters, being in engagement range of one of those units. So what we'll do is we'll take all of our attacks, or all of our impact dice, and we're just going to put them into the castigator, or we're going to choose the castigator as our target. We roll our 7d6. We end up getting slightly above average, just say 4d6. We do the average 8 wounds of the 4d6. So the castigator is now gone. Doesn't blow up for ease of the demonstration. Doesn't blow up. We've cut the castigator. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we are just going to make our pylon. Sorry. So this is the good thing about this is we can use this to not just do damage to the castigator, but now we're going to get everyone in here. We do say we end up killing most or if not all of this sister squad, but even if we just say we kill all but 3 sisters. We're then going to make our pylon move. And like we said, we have 2 OC. They have on each model. They've got 2 OC on each model. And we just end up taking the objective. So the idea here is you're going to multi-charge. You're going to charge into a key unit that is damaged. For example, here at the Castigator. And then we're going to charge into the sister unit. Now, this doesn't just have to be an objective. It could just be another target that you want to kill. But here, we want to take the primary or deny your opponent the primary, as well as kill a key scoring unit, as well as kill the key damage unit. And we've done all that with the space of one charge and one fight, one charge phase and one fight phase from the one unit of 6 blood crushers and the Skullmaster. So the next example is similar to the first. It's about dealing with multiple units in the course of the charge and the fight phase with the blood crushers, but slightly different in the fact that we have a dedicated transport. So in this exact example, we have a Sagittale, and it's filled with a unit of 5 Berserks. So we've managed to chip it off again with some just little shooting from different places. Um, where it comes from doesn't matter. This is just like I said for the sake of the example. Um, but it's now very killable on the impact hits. 6 mortal wounds is your average. So obviously you're relying on making that average, but again, like we said, just for the example. So what you want to do now, this is where you're going to need the help of your opponent. So you're going to ask your opponent to basically take their unit and deploy them 3 inches out from the vehicle. The reason you're going to do this is just so you can see um, exactly where your opponent can disembark with this unit. So once you make your charge move, the idea is we want to impact this to death, and then we want to not allow. We want to make sure there's enough space so the enemy models can disembark 3 inches, um, and so they get out 3 inches. Because if you stop them getting out 3 inches, they can instead emergency disembark, which gives them a 6 inch disembarkation instead. Though it gives them more likeliness to die on the explosions, or getting out the vehicle. It does mean the unit is pretty much untouchable from the Bloodcrusher. So what you want to do is you just want your opponent to just show you 3 inches out, pretty much as far back as they can get. Um, so you know exactly how much space you have to use. And we're just going to roughly say this is about the 3 inches. Um, and so that now you have a visual representation. You can ask your opponent to leave the models there. That's fine. We're going to roll our charge. We're going to roll a 7. That will go to an 8. So it's a pretty big charge. Now, obviously, when you make a charge move, any model that can make it in base contact with an enemy model in the unit you charged must do so. But there is a way around that. So just because you have to make every one of your models that can make it into base contact have to go into base contact, um, it doesn't say every model that you don't have to get every model in base contact. So basically, for example, what we want to do is we want to make sure we're staying an inch away from where the enemy unit can drop. Um, so basically something like this. Um, and then obviously this is also what we need to make sure once we're doing this is we're dropping an inch away from these guys so they can still drop out here. So that's fine. And then you want to make sure that we're getting as many guys we have to get into base contact without overdoing it. Here it's not too bad, but what you could do, you could turn this guy as he comes in here if you don't want to get them all in contact. That way you can then start putting them anywhere. Because what you want to do is you want to think ahead to the fight phase. So when you start making, so assume we kill this on the charge. Once we start making our piling moves, we want to make sure that everyone or as many of these blood crushers can actually still get into the unit. So this dies on the impact hits, for example. We now make our 3 inch piling because now this is where playing a bit of tricky jankiness comes into it. You don't have to pile in or fight against the unit you charged in the fight phase. So from the charge phase. So when you make a charge in the charge phase and you successfully make it, that then makes you eligible to pile in, make combat attacks, and consolidate. So there is no caveat to you must fight against the unit you charged. That went away from 9th to 10th. So now we can just basically use our movement here, pile in, use the big bases to our advantage, and be able to get everyone into base contact. And now we have all 6 blood crushers going into these berserks. Now, how much damage here we do isn't so much relevant, but say we end up killing, maybe because berserks are fairly tough, we end up killing all but 2 of them, and then we again make our piling. But like we said, that is a combat threat mostly dealt with. They might kill a blood crusher on the track back, that's fine. But we've dealt with a Sagittarius, which is pretty handy for your opponent. They're quite annoying, they can tank shock, they've got some pretty decent shooting. Um, and not just that, we've kind of killed 2 birds in 1 stone. We've got rid of the transport. We've also then got to the unit inside and crippled it. This is also good if you draw cards like no prisoners and you're lacking on areas to really get it. Killing this and say if you get lucky enough to kill the unit inside as well, that will then give you 4 points and no prisoners. If there's a unit inside with a character and you kill the vehicle, the unit, and the character, that's 3 points and no prisoners because characters do also contribute as a separate unit. So this is how to make the most going into dedicated transports, something that we struggle with, but a good way to get around it against wounded dedicated transports and then to be able to touch the unit inside as well. So the next example we have here is how to kind of play janky around units with fight first. So as you can see here, we have a unit of Plague Marines with a Foul Blight spawn. He gives them fight first. Plague Marines are quite nasty in combat, so we don't really want them hitting us first. So we've got a unit of Bloodcrushers here. We've got 6 Crushers, and we've also got our Bloodmaster. So the idea here is, again, we've done some chip damage. We've killed a couple of Plague Marines, and now we've got one guy on a wound. Now this is the important bit. We need this guy that is wounded. And so we've got our Bloodmaster here. He's 6.5 inches away. So that means a 6-inch charge will get him in. Everyone else is sitting a bit far back. Now, the reason for this is because when we make this charge, we want the Bloodcrusher to make it into engagement range of this guy here. We don't want anyone else being able to make it engagement range. And obviously, if we roll high, then we're going to have to either accept it or maybe go into a reroll. But the idea is we're trying to make it that average 7-inch charge will just get the one guy in engagement range and no one else. And we'll show you why. So say we do roll that 7-inch charge. That does turn to an 8. That does mean the Bloodcrusher can, or the Skullmaster can get into base. So what we're going to do is we're going to be a bit janky with it. We're just going to take a turn as we go in because we had like an 1.5 inch of movement. Now no one else can make it into base contact. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this guy here. We're going to pull this guy let's say about, we want to get as close as we can, and obviously we didn't get the full amount of movement anyway. And we want to make sure we're getting as many guys into combat as we possibly are, or possibly can, should I say. So we're just going to be a bit here. Bear with us. TTS can be a little bit unwieldy with this, but you get the idea. So the idea is we're making the charge here. We want the one guy into base contact. Now, we only want him to be in engagement range of the 1 wound model. The reason for this is now we do our impact hits. Say we end up rolling quite well, we end up getting 4d6, 4 of the d6, and then we end up rolling, 7 mortal wounds. So, because there is a wounded model in the unit, when your opponent takes more wounds, they have to remove any wounded models first, except for characters, of course. So, boom, that guy would die. Your opponent still gets to take 3 away, so this is where they can be a little bit janky themselves, and they're going to try and make it as difficult as they can for you to get in, but you're still going to get something here. So now what we're going to do, as you can see, is what we've done is moving into the fight phase, we are no longer in engagement range. That means this unit can't activate with his fight first, and because the unit didn't make a charge this turn, they are not eligible to activate in the fight phase because they're not in engagement range of an enemy unit. But because we did make a charge, we are eligible to pile in, consolidate, fight. And because of that, we get to pile in, which we're going to pile in. So we don't need that dice anymore. We're going to pile in. And again, like I said, this is slightly rough, so measurements might be slightly off, but the general consensus, general idea is there. We want to just make sure we're getting as many guys as we can into contact. And we're probably going to lose out on maybe one guy here, which is okay. We don't mind. We can take the loss of a guy. Like I said, it's not exact, but the idea of it is there. We won't get that guy in, but this unit of crushers will end up doing a bit of work still, especially if we use Dratterra for another extra point of AP just to cut through these plague marines a bit easier. But say we end up taking, maybe we roll poor and we kill all but the guy there. We can then pile in with that dude and flip him over. But like that, we pile in like that. And as you can see, that unit now isn't really a threat. The chances of them picking up a crusher, maybe one if they've got a good combat weapon. The Blightspawn himself isn't amazing in combat. But the idea is, the unit will fight first. You need to try and chip some damage off it. And more specifically, this will only work against multi-wound model units. Units that have 1 wound on models, obviously you can't really do the same trick. But you can cripple it with your impact hits, which is quite nice. But here we've made sure we've got at least one guy that's taken a wound, or a guy that's taken a wound. We've made the charge so an average 7-inch charge, even with the +1, will only get one guy into engagement range. Everyone else sits outside of the inch, whether that's through just not being able to get within the inch or being able to use the guy that did get in to block off the other guys from moving in. Then we do our impact hits, we kill a few guys, and then because now they are no longer, because they had to remove the model that was in base contact with our model, which had already taken a wound, because he's no longer there. That means they're no longer in combat because they didn't make the charge. They can't activate. We then get to activate, bypassing fights first. And again, this is just a general example. You can apply this all over the place. There are many instances of fight first. Like I said, this is a trick against fight first units with multi wounds in them on each model. Um, it will not work against one wounded model, but the impact hits will be more effective, of course. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some good tips and tricks out of that. And maybe can take what I've shown you. Of course, they are just general scenarios, but you will obviously have them pop up in your game with different units, different terrain sets, maybe slightly varied like scenarios themselves. But the general gist is there. So taking that knowledge or those examples I've shown you, being able to employ something similar in your game, sometimes those kind of things, those little clever plays and tricks are the difference between winning and losing games, even by mere points. So, um, hopefully you've learned from that and you've been able to take some of that stuff on board. And if anyone does end up using any of these tips that they may not have used before in games and even won games because of that, I would love to know. It means, what I'm spouting out to all of you is actually coming across well and helping, and that's all I'm here to do. I'm just trying to help all levels of demon players, um, and just try and make everyone not so much better, but maybe opening up different areas of the faction that people may not have thought of, whether in game or in the list building, etc., etc. So, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. It helps out massively and it allows me just to continue doing this. Please leave all feedback and suggestions down below, negative or positive. I will listen to all of it. Because the only way to grow is by just, you know, taking criticism, taking it on board, learning from it. Sometimes stuff may not be nice to see, but I've taken some stuff, seen it, thought, yeah, pretty good. So yeah, all of it's appreciated. Um, and please check out the social medias, Facebook, Instagram. That's where you can keep up to date with all of these video posts, as well as just my hobby progress in general, my tournament progress, how I'm getting on, and all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, that will do it for this video, and I hope to catch you all in the next one.